This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Your hosts are Seth Jacobson and Patrick Heiler.
Hi, I'm Seth.
And I'm Patrick. And this is Chapter 35, Ripped Away, and her symbol is the snake in the wheel. Yawning, Elayne watched Nynaeve from her bed, her head propped up on one elbow and black hair spilling down her arm. It was really quite ridiculous, this insistence that whoever did not go to Tel'aran'rhiod remain awake. She did not know how long an interval Nynaeve had experienced in the world of dreams, but Elayne had been lying here for a good 2 hours, with no book to read, no needlework to do, nothing at all to occupy her except staring at the other woman stretched out on her own narrow bed. Studying the Edam was no good. She thought she had wrung everything out of it that she could. She had even tried a slight touch of healing on the sleeping woman, perhaps all the healing she knew. Nynaeve would never have consented to it awake. She did not think much of Elayne's abilities in that direction, or maybe she would have, in this case. But her black eye was gone. In truth, that was the most complicated healing Elayne had ever done, and it really had exhausted her skill. Nothing to do. If she had some silver, she might have tried making an Adam. Silver was not the only metal, but she would have to melt coins to get enough. The other woman would be less pleased at that than at finding a second Adam. If Nynaeve had been willing to tell Thom and Julian about this, at least she could have invited Thom in for conversation. They really did have the most delightful talks, like a father passing on his knowledge to his daughter. She had never realized that the game of houses was so deeply embedded in Andor, if, thankfully, not so deeply as it was in some other lands. Only the borderlands escaped it entirely, according to Thom. With the Blight right to the north, and the Trolloc raids a daily fact, they had no time for maneuvering and scheming. She and Thom had wonderful talks, now that he was sure she was not going to try snuggling into his lap. Her face burned at the memory. She had actually thought of that once or twice, and mercifully had not quite brought herself to it. "Even a queen stubs her toe, but a wise woman watches the path," she quoted softly. Linny was a wise woman. Elayne did not think she would make that particular mistake again. She knew she made many, but seldom the same twice. One day, perhaps she would make few enough to be worthy to follow her mother on the throne. Suddenly, she sat up. Tears were leaking from Nynaeve's closed eyes, trickling down the sides of her face. What Elayne had taken for a faint snore — Nynaeve did snore, whatever she said — was a tiny whimpering sob deep in her throat. That should not be. If she had been injured, the hurt would have appeared, although she would not feel it here until she woke. Perhaps I should wake her, but she hesitated, even as her hand stretched toward the other woman. Waking someone out of Tel'aran'rhiod was far from easy. Shaking, even icy water in the face would not always do, and Nynaeve would not appreciate being pummeled awake after the bruising Sarandon had given her. I thought I'd cut it off there, but because I wanted to read, the next couple of pages.
Yeah, this is a fun one.
Nynaeve wakes up, screaming and crying, because she thinks she killed Birgitte, basically, or led her to a situation where she was killed.
Do you think anyone will notice that she's no longer has a black eye? Seems remarkably fast for a black eye to heal.
Wait, what was that?
Oh, well, they're hiding the fact that they're Aes Sedai, and Elayne heals her black eye overnight. So she goes to bed with a big black eye, shiner, wakes up the next morning totally healed.
And then it's just gone?
Yeah, it's just gone.
Well,
huh? That seems...
Tough girl, I guess. I don't know.
I know from experience when you give somebody a black eye, before a wedding, when they're helping you move, it lasts for a while, It doesn't just go right away. Yeah. There's some reflection on Thom in terms of, making a mistake by flirting with him because he's an older man. I'm not really sure what... we all thought it was silly, but...
I think it's more their connection that makes it weird than anything else.
Yeah. And now they're falling into a much more conventional father-daughter relationship where he's being more mentor and guide and sort of bestowing knowledge, and she's learning from him, and they're enjoying time together without it being overly sexual, which was extremely weird and still not fully explained in my head.
I mean, people get weird ideas. People have feelings. They don't usually make sense,
I guess it kind of goes with both Nynaeve and Elayne are struggling with men right now. They both have guys who they are promised to, dedicated to, planning on marriage. I'm not going to say engaged to, but engaged to be engaged. But at the same time, they have been on their own for a long time in the middle of nowhere, and there are some cute guys flirting with them. And as we've seen from the recent Thom casting, Thom's a cute-looking older dude. If we're going to headcanon the actor, he's a decent-looking guy.
Yeah, like I said, I just thought the connection makes it weirder than the age gap. The age gap's, it's kind of weird. It's unusual, but it just isn't unprecedented or anything.
It's more the fact that he could be her father.
Literally. Could be her father. Like, there's some questions. But yeah, like Zach's saying, I always saw that, she's a young woman who really has no experience with dating or her sexuality or anything except for, like, making out with Rand a couple times, which you can hardly count that. So it doesn't surprise me too much that she just kind of, like, she has warm feelings towards this older, solid man who's worldly and knowledgeable and talented, and I can see how your wires could get a bit crossed, and you could be like, oh, do I like this person, Or is it just, I'm just interested in a more platonic way?
This is an interesting, attractive person. That must mean I'm attracted to them.
Right. Yes. Like I said, like Bambi said, she's an 18-year-old girl. I definitely made some dumb, really profoundly dumb decisions around that age in particular.
I have no comment.
But for people like me and Elayne, at least, sometimes the only way for us to learn is just by bashing our head into the wall. Like, oh, that hurts, I get it. I get it now. That doesn't work, I see.
And out burns when I pee. I shouldn't do that. So she, from Nynaeve's appearances, sort of figures out that she's being held in Tel'aran'rhiod against her will, but before she can do anything, Nynaeve wakes up on her own.
Yeah.
She, goes to shake her, but it's too late.
I'm going to read another couple paragraphs right here. Immediately, Nynaeve began to weep aloud. The most despairing sound Elayne had ever heard. I killed her. Oh, Elayne, I killed her with my foolish pride, thinking I could... The words trailed off in open-mouthed sobs. You killed who? It could not be Moghedien. That woman's death would surely not bring this grief. She was about to take Nynaeve in her arms to comfort her, when a pounding came at the door. Send them away, Nynaeve mumbled, curling herself into a trembling ball in the middle of the bed. Sighing, Elayne made her way to the door, and pulled it open. But before she could say a word, Thom pushed past her, out of the night, rumpled shirt bagging out of his breeches, carrying someone shrouded in his cloak, in his arms. Only a woman's bare feet showed. She was just there, Juilin said behind him, as if he did not believe the words coming out of his own mouth. Both men were barefoot, and Juilin was stripped to the waist, lean and hairless-chested. I woke for a moment, and suddenly she was standing there, naked as the day she was born, collapsing like a cut net. She's alive, Thom said, laying the cloak-wrapped figure on Elayne's bed, but only barely. I could hardly hear her heart. Trying to be good about not reading the whole entire thing. Because it goes, and then they grab Birgitte, lay her on the bed, and Nynaeve is invents modern healing, I think, in this scene. Is that what happens here? She uses all 5 powers, and she's trying to get Birgitte to wake up and make her heart go properly, and nothing works.
I think Nynaeve's been doing that for a while. Yeah. This isn't the first time she's used all 5 powers to heal.
It's true. I'm not sure when that starts, but this time we have Elayne watching, so we can see that this is different from what other people do. And it's not working.
Yeah, and this seems very much like almost like a stillbirth, where you have someone, she's born naked, right, into the world, dropped just in front of Juilin, and we saw her, her disappear and her clothes felt, very Death of a Jedi type thing, where she disappears and the clothes fall. Moghedien pokes at the clothes with her toe to see, they're empty, and then the clothes fade away. But I do find it interesting that she pops out right near Nynaeve and Elayne. Any idea why that's where she pops out?
Isn't that where she was standing in Tel'aran'rhiod?
Oh, okay.
So they leave leave where Morgedion is, and Morgedion arrives, and they're standing there in the menagerie. Obscure's asking, so what's killing Birgitte? Why can't Nynaeve heal it? And I don't know.
I have a theory. When Morgedion rips Birgitte out of Tel'aran'rhiod and throws her into the real world, what she's basically doing is removing the thing that is attached to the horn, that is a hero of the horn, and puts it into the real world. And if Birgitte had died and faded away at that point, because she wasn't really real, she was sort of a construct, and she didn't have a body, she didn't have enough existence to survive, and if she had died at that point, all of what Birgitte was and has been would have faded away entirely. She wasn't linked to Tel'aran'rhiod, and she wasn't linked to the real world. She's been torn away by Morgedion. However, because Elayne did what she did, she linked Birgitte to the physical world. By creating the warder bond, she gives Birgitte this sort of abstract soul that's been cast into the real world, an anchor. She sort of shares her existence with Elayne. And that's what anchors Birgitte in. But what you have is essentially a slow leakage back into Tel'aran'rhiod. Morgedion wasn't entirely capable of eliminating Birgitte from Tel'aran'rhiod. And so over time, we see Birgitte's memories fade and disappear. And what I think that is a slow leak of Birgitte back into Tel'aran'rhiod. And by the time she's actually killed, everything that is Birgitte has actually made it back and become a hero of the horn again. And so by bonding her in this point, essentially what Elayne does is give the soul of Birgitte time to reattach to the wheel over the next 6 months to a year.
Yeah, and to have a body. That makes sense to me, because I felt that it's a bit strange, right? Birgitte, 5 minutes ago, did not have a body. She doesn't exist in Tel'aran'rhiod like a human being might who went there in the physical realm. So Nynaeve trying to heal something that only sort of exists, she's more like the idea of a person.
Right, she's in her natural state. There's nothing to heal.
Yeah, she's the dream of a person.
Exactly.
I want to relate it to motherhood in some way, but I'm not coming up with a good way to...
Because that person shares your body, right? As someone you are a parent to, you give them a piece of who you are.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at.
And we see Birgitte being born naked and become a piece, basically become Elayne's daughter, which is kind of funny because in a lot of ways she ends up becoming her older sister.
Yeah. That's why I hesitate to call it motherhood, because they're not even far away in age, quote unquote, but this is all kind of hazy territory. How old is Birgitte? A day? Thousands and thousands of years? I don't know.
Painted Dead is asking if she was still alive when the horn was blown, would she appear? I don't believe so. I think if she was still in physical form, she wouldn't be in Tel'aran'rhiod, and she would not be able to be called by the horn.
Yeah, I'd be inclined to agree with that. Some point in the Watt World history, the horn was blown while a hero was alive, It just wouldn't call them.
I mean, technically, Gaidal Cain is alive during the last battle as a baby when the horn is blown.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So he doesn't arrive?
He does not arrive.
Or he doesn't come?
Nope.
He's busy elsewhere. Eating and crying.
Being a baby. There's that bit of Nynaeve's get him out of here. And they're like, well, there's this naked woman that just randomly dropped in front of me. It's like Julian made a wish of I'm tired of being single. Can I get a date? Boom,
bam.
Naked girl. Okay, Julian. Thom looks at him did you just make that wish?
Right? Can you imagine? You're just laying there in your blankets, listening to the crickets, smoking some Two Rivers tobacco with Thom, and then...
I think, weren't they on watch outside?
Probably, I don't know.
Yeah, whatever.
But I'm making it a less and less likely story by... I don't know, we were just wandering around the woods, having a smoke, if you know what I mean, and...
some of that Two Rivers tobacco.
I guess.
Love potion number 9.
So Nynaeve has her furious struggle trying to heal her back to life. That doesn't work.
How close do you think Nynaeve comes to burning herself out? Because she gets fucking lit. She is so bright.
Lit, bro.
Yeah.
Is that Tabak?
She is. Jesus Christ.
Sorry.
But she's just pulling in so much energy. It really is. Where Elayne's like, yeah, my little bit of ability added onto yours wouldn't even make a difference. Like, you're so freaking
at first
powerful.
They talk about, like, Elayne says, I think I know how I could help, and Nynaeve says, linking? And Elaine's like, no, I don't think so. I do kind of want to read, though. Yeah. The glow shining about Nynaeve grew and grew until it overwhelmed the lamps, until it hurt to look at her, except through slitted eyes. And at this point, she's, like, screaming how... And you know how Nynaeve is. Just simultaneously healing and like screaming threats and
Guilt is a hell of a drug.
This might be later, but at some point in here, Elayne says something like, so do you think Moghedien's dead? And Nynaeve's like, I hope not. Going to hunt her down.
I'm assuming all of the anger that she gets for channeling is directed at Moghedien, basically, like...
Yeah.
She must be so fucking angry, and so to be pulling in that much power. Well, that's an interesting question. Do you think the level... She's not like the Hulk, where the angrier she gets, the more powerful she gets. She just has to be at least a little angry, and then I feel like she can channel the full amount. I
think so, yeah. She just works herself up into a rage, and it's not necessary. Like I don't think it's measured. I think she just... It's just how she operates.
Well, and you have to stay angry for a while. You can't just get a little angry for a little while.
She's saying, burn her forever for doing this. I will find her, Birgitte. Screaming. I imagine all this is screaming. I will find her. I will make her pay. I swear it. And she swears, by the light my hope of salvation and rebirth, I will.
I'm having fun, for some reason, right now, picturing Zoe Robbins, the actress, screaming these lines.
Oh, she has such a sweet face. I wonder if she could contort it into that much rage. But yeah, it works.
Just her holding, like, I can't wait to see who Birgitte is. Or Elayne. There's so many. Basically, we know about Thom and Nynaeve at this point in this scene. We know who those two actors are, but I keep picturing these scenes in a TV show, and I keep getting more and more excited. The hype is real, guys. The hype is real. So she basically does the only thing she can think of, which is, I think, brilliant, which is attach Birgitte to the real world by sharing her soul, a piece of her soul.
Yeah.
Because, like, we've talked about this before, where there's no actual magical connection. And she says it, like, there's no Sidar or Sidene connecting them when you're in a bond. Like, it's... Something about the bond lets you share a soul, that lets you know something about the other person. There's something going on there that's more than just a magical connection. And I think that whatever it is that's more is what saves Birgitte.
Nodding. Nynaeve doesn't know what it was at first. It's not super important, but it's notable. And she says, it wasn't healing. I think I could do that myself now, but that wasn't healing. And Elayne says, no, I bonded her as a warder.
And it's interesting to me that Nynaeve never really bonds anybody, because she technically is bonded to Lan, but she mostly gets past his bond. She never actually uses that weave.
She doesn't bond Lan?
Well, that's one of those, again, when we go back to Sanderson is an excellent author, but at some point in the series, it is mentioned that as soon as Nynaeve gets Lan and Marielle, whatever the fuck her name is, Myrelle, into the same place, she's going to make her give him his bond. But then at some point in the last 3 books, they do it without them being in the same place, which makes me wonder, like, wait, how, like, it's off screen. Not only is it off screen, but they're not even in the same place. It's like weirdly, it's this super important moment that I really wish we'd gotten to see. But I think Sanderson couldn't get them all in the same place at the same time, plot-wise, and so just...
Fair enough.
Did it remotely, and that kind of made me sad. Because, like, I feel like that would have been a really, really cool moment to see Nynaeve get and actually receive Lan's bond. Like, that to me, we get a little bit of that moment when she breaks her block, but I really do wish they'd given us the moment where the two of them got bonded.
Maybe they'll do it in the show.
Yeah, maybe. I would love to see it. Because like we saw with Rand and his 3 wives, we saw lots of Perrin and Fael sort of bonding. We saw Matt and his sort of whole relationship going on. But like I really do feel like we missed out on the Nynaeve Lan sort of bonding experience. They talk about how the fact they have to keep this really secret because she's an accepted, and if anyone learns that an accepted made a warder, she could be stilled. I think that may be a slight exaggeration. I think she might just be like put on a farm and beaten to within an inch of her life, but I don't think they'd still an accepted for bonding somebody.
I don't know, but it's something that's totally unprecedented. This is never supposed to happen. Not to mention that she's not supposed to do it without being raised to Aes Sedai. She didn't even ask permission. Brigitte's unconscious.
That's a good point. It's more about, yeah. I mean, the permission thing. Now, it is to save her life. So, and there's also the whole, like, you can let go of a bond. That's something that's not really even mentioned until much later, that you can just release a bond. At some point, I feel like she went to Birgitte and said, hey, I can try releasing your bond. And Birgitte probably went like, no, let's not risk that.
Oh, I don't know. While it's still relevant, I just wanted to say Hopper Lives brought up that it's mentioned that stilling is a punishment for taking a warder at the wrong time or against their will. And it happened frequently in the Trolloc Wars. So it's not totally unprecedented, I guess is what I mean. I shouldn't say frequently because that's a little much, but now I'm curious because that rings a bell.
But I also feel like in 1,000 years, I know the Tower isn't supposed to change laws, but they do. They make, if it hasn't happened in 1,000 years, they find ways around it. I thought this was a particularly ironic statement when Nynaeve is saying, if only I knew more, if only I could have Moghedien's knowledge for 5 minutes, I could heal her. And it's like, yeah, well, I mean, you're going to get her as a prisoner and learn a lot from her. But Moghedien doesn't know shit about healing.
Yeah.
Ooh, how about an Ogier warder? That'd be cool.
Badass.
Do you think you could bond an Ogier as a warder? Do you think a warder bond would work on them? They're not human. But, like, already Ogier are pretty fucking tough and tireless and indestructible.
Yeah. Be the best tank in a RPG.
Give them a warder bond on top of that? That's, like, not even fair.
I want to say no. It couldn't be possible.
I want to agree with you. Yeah, I want to agree with you.
And not just because that's like an overpowered thing and we've got to nerf it. It's because they're just not the same species,
Agreed. They're from another planet. They're not even like, it's not even another species. It's like another universe.
Yeah, so I don't think so.
And like the way that the one power doesn't work in steading, that's really what makes me think that the water bond wouldn't work on Ogier. And certainly not on any of the constructs, the Nym, the Trollocs, the Myrddraal.
No, they're intelligent but soulless.
Now, the Myrddraal have something like a warder bond with the Trollocs. That's the whole, you kill a Myrddraal and all the Trollocs fall down going crazy. But that's a weird...
That's within their own species, exactly. If you can call it that.
Right.
Ogier can't channel. They can do their own kind of magic called singing. Well, it is singing, but it does magic things. But not channeling. Yeah,
Ogier are totally cut off from the one power. Terrified of it.
I don't have too much else here other than, of course, the readout. Nynaeve spends some time just self-flagellating until finally Elayne's like, you didn't do this, Moghedien did this. You can't keep blaming yourself.
They speculate about how Moghedien made them feel pain and Tel'aran'rhiod, and I'm like, didn't she just make you feel pain using her mind?
Probably.
Like, she's like, was it the lake with... And no, I think it was just Tel'aran'rhiod, where you can make someone... I mean, you can turn someone into an idiot. You can turn them into a horse. You can make them feel pain. I like this line. You and I are soldiers in a battle, but you are not a fool, so stop behaving like one. Just like fucking slapping Nynaeve around a little bit. A soldier who takes blame for comrades who fall in battle is a fool. And it's like, yeah, you are fighting. You are fighting against the Dark One. There are soldiers, there are dark friends on both sides, and you are going into a battleground every time you fall asleep with that Terran Real between your breasts. I'm only using that terminology because Robert Jordan uses it. This is really when we get to start hanging out with Birgitte in the flesh, and Birgitte in the flesh is one of the best characters in the series.
She's definitely one of my favorites.
Yeah. Because we all love Matt, and we all love the people Matt loves. We love Thom, we love Birgitte. They hang out with Matt, and they're cool people, and they're fun, and they just, like, we'd want to go to a bar and gamble with Matt and drink with Birgitte and look at the fucking ugly-ass dudes that she wants to check out. and like, listen to Thom tell his fucking dry humor while we watch Oliver, like, scamper around and trip people. Like, it just sounds like a goddamn fun afternoon at, like, the bar. Like, seriously.
Fun afternoon on the battlefield.
That too. But the Matt-Birgitte relationship is got to be just one of the best male-female, both for Matt in particular, where he's like, oh, women can be people too. You know, when we talk about Matt growing up, and I don't know why I'm keep coming back to banging on Sanderson tonight, but like one of my problems with Sanderson's first book is Matt really reverts to his Two Rivers personality, when really he's come so far in seeing women as people, between Birgitte and getting his butt kicked a few times by Tylan, and really seeing Tuon as a person first before he saw her as a sexual object was such growth for Matt. And I really didn't like the way he kind of got reverted in book 12. He got there in book 13 and 14. So I'm okay with it.
Happens eventually.
It happens. But when people say that Sanderson missed Matt in book 12, I really do think it's because he wrote book 5 Matt, not book 11 Matt. Because Matt changed so much in between those two books. And I think Sanderson just missed that change.
I've heard a lot of people say that.
I mean, as much as Tylan is a morally questionable plot and repugnant to a lot of people, I think it forced Matt to grow quite a bit as a person.
Yeah, I would think anything like that would. Crazy traumatic experiences.
Like Elayne being captured, or Egwene being captured by the Seanchan, or Elayne being nearly prematurely C-sectioned. There's all sorts of traumatic experiences that help our characters grow. And grow up faster than most 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds would grow at their age.
Do you know how badly Moghedien was hurt? Maybe she is dead. I hope not, the other woman almost snarled. I want to make her pay. She took a deep breath, but instead of invigorating her, it seemed to make her sag. I would not count on her dying. Birgitte's shot missed her heart. A wonder she managed to hit the woman at all, staggering as she was. I could not have stood up if I were thrown that far. Hard enough to bounce like that. I couldn't even stand up after what Moghedien did to me. No, she is alive, and we had best believe that she can have her wound healed and be after us by morning. She would still need time to rest, Nynaeve. You know that. Can she even know where we are? From what you said, she had no time to do more than see that this is a menagerie. What if she did see more? Nynaeve rubbed her temples as if it were difficult to think. What if she knows exactly where we are? She could send dark friends after us, or send word to dark friends in Samara. Luca is livid because 11 menageries are already around the city, and 3 more are waiting to cross the bridge. Nynaeve, it will take days for her to regain her strength after a wound like that, even if she does find some Black Sisters to heal her, or one of the other Forsaken, and more days to search through 15 menageries. That is, if there are not more on the road behind us, or coming from Altara. If she does come after us, or send dark friends, either one, we are forewarned, and we have days to find a boat that can carry us downriver. She paused a moment, thinking. Do you have anything to dye your hair in that bag of herbs? I'll wager anything that you had your hair braided in Teleran Riyadh. Mine is always its real color there. If yours is loose, as it is now, and another color, it will make us that much harder to find. White cloaks everywhere, Nynaeve sighed. Galad, the Prophet, no boats. It is as if everything is conspiring to hold us here for Moghedien. I am so tired, Elayne. Tired of being afraid of who might be around the next corner. Tired of being afraid of Moghedien. I cannot seem to think of what to do next. My hair? Nothing that would make it any color I'd have. You need sleep, Elayne said firmly. Without the ring. Give it to me. The other woman hesitated, but Elayne merely waited with her hand outstretched until Nynaeve fished the fleck stone ring from the cord around her neck, stuffing it into her pouch. Elayne went on. Now you lie down here, and I will watch Birgitte. Nynaeve stared at the woman stretched out on the other bed for a moment, then shook her head. I can't sleep. I need to be alone. To walk. Getting to her feet as stiffly as if she really had been beaten, she took her dark cloak from its peg and swung it over her shift. At the door, she paused. If she wants to kill me, she said bleakly, I do not know that I could make myself stop her. She went into the night barefoot and sad-faced. Elayne hesitated, unsure which woman needed her more, before settling back where she sat. Nothing she said could make things better for Nynaeve, but she had faith in the woman's resilience. Time alone to work it all over in her mind, and she would see that blame lay at Maggedian's door, not hers. She had to.
So this is when we get the girls with dyed hair. I think they're not able to dye Nynaeve's hair, but Elayne gets dark hair. Nynaeve turned into a redhead. Oh, she gets like the unnatural red hair.
Right, Devico. It's like they have to continuously dye it with a herb called hen pepper.
Got it.
I forget, but it was in one of the chapters pretty close to here where one of them is thinking about it. Just that it has to be redone all the time. Starts coming out.
Like, it's not like a dye, it's more like you have to put it in daily, basically.
I feel like probably more like henna, like what was suggested in Discord a second ago, where like, it's a dye, yeah, but it's not like some industrial thing. Like, if you really just keep scrubbing, it might come out, you know?
So if you look, I posted a picture in Discord that if you look at it's Val and Luca's Traveling Circus by
Edsel Arnold. I met him at JordanCon.
Yeah, and I love his work. It's very stylized in a way that I like conveys a lot of information. And so this is Val and Luca's circus show, and you can look up, you can see Elayne in the top left in her white tights and her black hair because it's been dyed, which I thought was pretty clever.
Oh, yeah. And then Birgitte and Nynaeve.
And then down below, Birgitte is shooting her bow. She's got her hair dyed with black hair. And then Nynaeve has red hair because it's been henna dyed. And then in the top right, you can see Julian with his fez. And Val and Luca in the center. And then some of the contortionists and stuff like that. But no Thom. And no Shreddit. But I really love the art style. And you can really see the hairstyles. It looks like he nailed them all in terms of like really digging into who got dyed and who didn't. But if you look at that art on the just sort of looking at it, the bottom left kind of looks like Nynaeve because it's dark braided hair, but it's actually Birgitte because it's Brigitte's dyed blonde hair with a braid, and she's the one shooting the bow and arrow.
I'm nodding
at Nynaeve.
I really like Edsel Arnold's little portrait of Lan.
As a baby?
I'm not sure if he's supposed to be the baby or this is supposed to be the future and he's like giving the child the sword.
I always assumed that's the baby and those are his parents before they fall.
That's just a nice scene, I don't know.
And then you've got that Gress's green scene, cup of tea.
Mm-hmm.
Just like some serious, like he picks just some really momentous occasions. The best Grendel portrait I've ever seen. One of the best Selene portraits I've ever seen. Rand is tough. I have a hard time picturing. I mean, he's never quite right in any of the art that I see.
I agree with you. I just knocked the mic again, sorry. I agree with you that Rand never looks quite right to me. But I definitely had a very specific idea of, and that Rand is also much more youthful in my mind than, I feel like it's always like a, 40-year-old man Rand when there are portraits and stuff. Like, he's got this really strong square jaw, and he like
Henry Cavill, and I'm like, no, he's not like that. He doesn't have that square of a jaw.
I imagine him a bit more as like tall and thin, and he's in his early 20s. Like, he still has a very youthful face. He's not even filled out all the way yet, but like whipcord strength, you know?
Totally. Farmer strength.
And not an ounce of fat on his body. At some point in the books, the narration starts describing his arms as if wrapped in ropes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just a sign that someone that's real strong and doesn't have a scrap of fat on him.
Well, and especially all the sword training he's been doing, like his arms and forearms must be just super strong.
Yeah, just out there sweating in the desert, working out every day.
No, and there's like months where he's like, that's all he's doing. And he's, he's a 20-year-old dude. Like, you're in peak physical condition.
Not to mention, right before that, he spent a good long while starving while walking across the continent.
Right.
That'll take off any
excess body fat.
Extra you got. Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or
support us on Patreon. Is that good enough?